So first, I'm introducing Rachel Wood, our Assistant City Manager, who's going to introduce the Cease the Harm presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor and Council. As a quick reminder, in December 2022, the Community Reparations Commission took action directing the city and county to conduct a Cease the Harm audit, looking at our operations as well as our contracts and partnerships in the community and making sure that no additional harm was being inflicted against the Black community in Asheville. City staff partnered with Buncombe County to develop a scope of work and ultimately select a firm, Carter Development Group, to conduct this first of its kind audit. That audit is now complete, and you all received a copy of the audit report 2 weeks ago, and it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Adrienne Carter, who served on the team that helped prepare this historic and first of its kind Cease the Harm audit report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilwoman, thank you for having us here. I'm Dr. Adrienne Carter with the Carter Development Group, so we're going to go through this presentation and discuss our findings and some of our recommendations around the Cease the Harm audit. We looked at information, data that was collected from July 1st of 2020 all the way to June 30th of 2023. And we looked at the July 1st date because that was when the reparations resolutions were first passed by both county and city. We developed a particular methodology to conduct this work called the Racial Equity Harm Assessment Compass. And what it does is it looked at the opportunity, representation. We also wanted to know, how do people know about these programs, services, resources, and pathways? And then lastly, we also looked at access. In conclusion of our study, we identified 4 key theme harms. Number 1 is that there's insufficient data-driven practices to determine the level of African American participation in county and city opportunities. Open the floor for any questions.
So then not having that data would be harm?
Yes.
Okay. Did you find any areas in particular where we don't have data under each of the groups? Or all of them?
All of them. Yes. Each area, there is significant lack of data. Some data was simply not being collected because certain questions were not being asked. So by coming in to have this type of an audit, a Cease Harm audit, it raised questions that were not being asked or different types of questions. And then the response is, well, we don't collect that specific data. So in the spirit of ceasing harm, then there needs to be a cultural shift in the type of data that's collected. Hopefully, by collecting that data, we can now begin to get more information in which shows that whether harm is actually occurring in some of those spaces or not. Because harm may not be, but because the data is not there, we can't actually tell.
Okay, so if we have a group of women that comes forward and says, we're being treated disparately. We don't have a way to determine if their thought or their feeling or their instinct is correct because we don't have the data?
Correct.
Okay, and then to go back, and I'm belaboring the point. So if you have a group of people, comes forward, says something's not right, and there's no data to prove that what they're saying is in fact the case, they are in fact being harmed because there's no data.
Yes.
Jonathan Wainscott.
My name is Jonathan Wainscott, and I wanted to take note of the Cease the Harm audit and how Ms. Mosley picked up right away on key harm number 1, I think it was, the insufficient data-driven practices to determine the level of African American participation in county and city opportunities. Here's an example. Although it's not covered in the reparations audit for 3 years. This is back in 2018. So again, I'm going to talk about Senate Bill 813. When it was passed in June of 2018, we had voting districts here in Asheville. And so what that should have done is the Buncombe County Election Services should have updated their voter rolls and voter registration to reflect this new jurisdiction. I just got my voter registration, and it even says district change on. We had a district change on here, and we were notified about this new thing. But the lay of the land, as Brad Branham said in the workshop back in the day, what we had in Asheville at the time were district elections, district system. For 16 months, that was what we had. And the Buncombe County Election Services never updated their data so that we could analyze what the demographics were in these districts with 100% precision. I went there all the time and asked them whether or not they would update the information. And I would come to City Council and go, hey, we're still waiting on this. Included in Senate Bill 813, it wasn't just you have to abolish your at-large election system. They provided a map, and they provided the shape files. The shape files to create the map is written in the law. And Corinne Duncan never updated that information. And I called the Buncombe County Election Services out on this when I ran into Jake Quinn at a elections integrity panel thing. And I said, hey, this happened. And he said, no, we never had districts. We had districts. We did have them. That was the thing that we did, okay? That's correct. And he said, but it didn't matter because the city was going to change the charter anyway. So we were going to change the charter, so no harm, no foul. No harm. Like earlier we said that not getting the data caused harm. Every voter in this city was caused harm when the election services didn't let us know what our new jurisdiction was when it came to city council elections. And then we ran out the clock and we brought the charter change up right as the North Carolina General Assembly was going out of session. And so, they weren't going to take it up again. Shady deal, totally legal. That's what we did 5 years ago.
Thank you.
Good luck.